You're listening to the Game Tenants Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Game Tenants Podcast, the failed adventures of two gamers and their quest for Gamecast stardom. This is episode 57, and I am Church of the Game Grinder, and joined by my excellent co-host, Justin, Cardboard Zero.
How is it going, everybody? Great to be back for another great podcast. Some of the topics we're going to be talking about tonight: Nintendo, does it hate all of its fans or just its virtual ones? Bethesda kind of seems like it hates Steam. BioWare's got some great news down the pipeline, and some Metal Gear movie updates. You didn't hear it first, but you're going to hear it now.
Yeah.
And with that, Church, what have you been up to, buddy?
I have not been doing a whole lot of gaming, actually. Most of my gaming happened like the first couple days after the last episode. But I've been spending like probably the last week and a half just trying to work on this Shantae statue. People who might follow me might have seen that. It is quite the process and a learning experience, so it's taken longer than normal. But I finished up Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
So
Finally.
Congrats me, I guess. Put about 85 hours in total. Final counts were Divine Beasts saved, 100 shrines, 100 Korok seeds, and trying to think of any other significant milestones. Most side quests done. So I mean, I covered most of the content pretty well. I didn't do all the Korok seeds. There's 900. Nuts to that.
Mm-mm.
120 shrines, so I didn't miss a whole lot. Like, I actually went out of my way as I played through the game to kind of like explore the areas and try to find all the shrines. So it would be kind of tough to find. I mean, I could look at a map or something where they show where they all are, but I feel fine. I got to the point where it was like, this is a good, perfect time to end the game. I was starting to kind of feel the whole shrine Korok seed searching as you explore was getting a little overstaying its welcome at that point. So I think 85 hours, perfect mark, great game, pretty much everything that I said before. Times two, I guess.
So would you say another classic Zelda game? I mean, obviously not now, but like years from now, it's going to be another, that's a good one to play.
I think so. All so.
Right.
I mean, we'll have to kind of see where things go. Like, I really hope that they keep this style for the next one and just make it better, because I think there's a lot of room for improvement.
Okay.
They put a lot of work into it, and they did some cool things, but they can do, with that groundwork, they can do so much more, and they can make it a more robust experience, and not even like, typically a sequel to a game, it's just everything's bigger. There's more. They don't need to necessarily make things bigger. Just add in more to what's already there and expand on some of the concepts and ideas they have, and bring back dungeons. That would be cool. I mean, shrines are fun, but there's something special about dungeons. In any game, they're always like kind of like a milestone a lot of times throughout the gameplay. I mean, Breath of the Wild had its own with the divine beasts and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, everybody already kind of heard the spiel. Everybody knows. Everybody else thinks the game's great. I do too.
Excellent. Yeah. Good.
Then I also not much to say about this game, but using the Steam link that I got not too long ago which is actually pretty cool. Take it over to somebody's house that has Steam. They can just stream games to it. You can hook up a bunch of controllers and play couch co-op games.
Mm-hmm.
And we, myself, my brother, and a friend played through in 2 sessions Guns, Gore, and Cannoli 2, which essentially is a side-scrolling twin-stick shooter themed with like mobsters, kind of cartoony mobsters, and they throw in zombies and stuff there. Fun game, tough. We had a tough time anyways, especially towards the end, but I would definitely recommend checking that one out if you like those kind of games.
Okay.
And I also played kind of a surprise Shantae DLC that was released. So, I was hyped, and of course I was spamming social media about that. The Shantae Half-Genie Hero Jammies mode was released for free for everybody who had the game, whether it was the standard version or the Ultimate Edition. And basically it's just another mode that kind of fits in with the costume pack, along with the ninja mode, officer mode, and beach mode. And this is just, mix up the dialogue. It's new dialogue, basically playing through all the levels again, new powers, and some, threw in a couple other cool things there. But besides that, not really something I've been up to, but something I just kind of wanted to give a shout out to, really to Brett Weiss and his books. But I've mentioned him before. I did a book review some time ago on my channel for the classic video games 19. I don't remember the title of the dates it was. It covered Genesis and TurboGrafx, I believe. It's been a while since I read it, but Brett Weiss, known author, he's done a bunch of books, and he was putting together essentially kind of what we're seeing a couple other guys doing right now, Jeffrey Wittenhagen, Pat the NES Punk. He is making basically a Super Nintendo compendium. He's doing two different books. Part 1 covers games A through M, and part 2 obviously will cover N through Z. And kind of the neat thing about this, and I don't know if the other guys are doing it too, I haven't seen their books, but not only does he include, screenshots, cover art, description of the game, some neat facts and stuff like that, but he pulled in lots of people involved in different aspects of the community, the community and industry, from bloggers, YouTubers to industry professionals and stuff like that, to just kind of share anecdotes about games. And I was able to get involved. At one point he was looking for some people who wanted to join in, and kind of threw it out to essentially people who he's following. And it's like, hey, he's like, I got some games. He's like, if you are involved in the community or the industry, let me know. And I ended up getting Cybernator for this book. So if anybody checks out the book, look me up. Share a pretty neat little memory about Cybernator from when I was a kid. So
you are forever memorialized in someone's book.
Yep. I also got a little thing in the back that says, who I am, and that, I'm also known as the Game Grinder, and I kind of just get a couple lines of like who I am and like why is this guy writing a thing in a book about video games? Just kind of give myself a little credibility.
A little free publicity is what
no, it's great. I want to try to, like, maybe besides like a pickup video, like I want to try to talk about the book in a video at some point.
That'd
it's
be cool.
Gonna be a ways out, but it's something I'd like to do. But for anybody who's interested in these kinds of things, these compendiums in book form, I would recommend checking it out. It's SNES Omnibus by Brett Weiss. I don't know if I actually said the name, SNES Omnibus. That's what it is.
Where could one find, or how to get this? Is it like out now?
It's out now. Okay. It's on Amazon, and I believe it's through a few other sources, but I think the main place is to go as Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my little spiel there of what I've been up to. How about yourself?
It's like you were busy, but you weren't busy. It was
Yeah. I mean, lot to talk about when I've been basically sanding a figure for a week and a half, but
Well, but you've been having fun though, right? Like it hasn't been like a chore. It's been like a labor of love.
Yeah. I mean, it's everybody knows my Shantae hype, so just trying to figure out how to do this. It's a cast resin figure. Don't mean to like sidetrack conversation again. Basically, it's a cast resin figure where they make the molds of all the parts in the color that the piece is supposed to be, so you don't have to paint it, which is really nice. But how they do this is almost like IKEA. So you get the pieces cast. Usually they'll have still connecting tabs and things on it that you got to cut off and sand down, and there'll be seams to where the molds came together that you got to get rid of these seams. And this is my first time doing it, so it's a learning experience on how to do this right. And I'm on my third time of resanding the whole thing, and
oh boy,
using 10 different grits of sandpaper to try to get it smooth and nice as I can before I put it together and do a matte clear coat and stuff like that. So
well, I mean, hey, it's good to hear people have passion for a series, and yours fits in, and you get to work on a figure. So
yeah, totally. And the other thing is, again, mentioning IKEA, is by doing it this way, which is a lot more work on the customer's behalf, but they're way cheaper. I mean, most figures are $200, $300, where these Shantae ones are $70 and $75, but you just put them together, and then essentially you have one of those super nice figures. You just you got to do the labor. So, and I'm willing to do it because I like doing stuff like that.
Excellent. Hey, why not?
So, yes. So enough about me. Yeah, what have you been up to?
Well, I will pale in comparison, because the last couple of weeks for me have been trying to enjoy a little bit of summer. So that meant going outside, and yeesh, I don't know about you guys. Kind of hard to play games when you're outside, right? But right. No, I've been I start school in 2 weeks, so I've been I had to get a laptop and set everything up and printer. So I didn't get to play as much games. So unfortunately, I did put some more time in Shining Resonance, and it's panning out to be, not oh my God, 10 out of 10, but I'm enjoying it. But I have a very wide berth of acceptance when it comes to RPGs. I appreciate different RPGs for the things, but I'm enjoying it. It's going good. But otherwise, I've been popping on playing Final Fantasy 14. So raiding season is over. My raid team broke up, so till next tier. So we gives me about a nice month, so I get a nice berth into school with no pressure, which is good because haven't been to school in 16 years. So yeah, kind of have to do all that. But yeah, like I say, just been playing 14, just kind of killing time, as it were, trying to be excited and not scared to start a new chapter in my life. So that's why I say I pale in comparison.
I'm just going on and on about.
No. I just wish I was I played some of this, I played some of that, I did some of this, I started this, but didn't, I just Final 14 and Shining Resonance.
Well,
I'm so busy.
Yeah, like most of mine was I seriously crammed a bunch in, because I'm okay, I just finished Breath of the Wild. I don't want to not start another game for 2 weeks or. So I'm okay, I'm gonna. Oh, hey, a new Shantae DLC just came out. Hour and a half, bam, blast through that. The Guns, Gore, and Cannoli I played over. I do weekend hangouts, so we play them on the weekends when we hang out. Definitely. Yeah.
I will say one thing though. I was being at work and listening to music. Sometimes I'm just I don't want to listen to music. So I'll kick on game soundtracks. So I did listen to a guy, because I like background noise when I'm at. I drive a forklift, but I have a speaker and all that, and so I was So a couple days ago, I've probably listened to the darn thing 3 or 4 times. But the way he does it, I don't know if you call it a retrospective, but basically he explains the whole Metal Gear Solid story from he puts it in chronological order. So you'd start here, go here, go here. The way the game progresses, not you don't just go Metal Gear Solid 2. He puts them in the timeline that they happen in the universe.
Okay.
Is that a retrospective or?
Yeah, it's different approach. Either they do it in release order or timeline order. So
Timeline order. So like he starts off explaining the story of Metal Gear Solid 3, and then it goes into 5?
3, then now I'm
3 Peace Walker.
Yeah.
So anyway, but he explains that I just like listening because it's just like a lot of the games or some of the games I haven't played. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know that part of the story. I didn't know that part of it. So I listened to that, and then I listened to the Ninja Gaiden for the NES soundtrack, and I was like, so I might be busting out my HDMI modded Nintendo and playing a little old school Metal Gear and some Ninja Gaiden this week.
Nice. Do you remember what that content creator was? Was it a YouTube channel?
Yes.
Don't remember who it was.
It will take. I don't think he's very big in terms of things, but
no, it's always
not trying to make the click clackies too loud here, folks. I'm sorry. Modern Gamer TV.
Interesting. I'll have to check him out.
The best part is though, like his Metal Gear timeline for everything up, because he did this big thing before Metal Gear 5 came out, Metal Gear Solid 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an hour long to explain the story. His Metal Gear Solid 5 explanation takes almost 2 hours.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy game, I'll say that much.
And just for you that are curious, yes, that does include the not canon, not made by Konami, Snake's Revenge Metal Gear 2 on Nintendo for us Americans.
It's I think it's worth acknowledging when talking about Metal Gear, but obviously it doesn't play a part in the story. But actually, for a long time, especially like during the Nintendo, that was like one of my favorite Nintendo games. I mean, it still is.
Just the first one or the second one?
Snake's Revenge.
Okay, yep.
In particular. I mean, the first... Snake's Revenge has the side-scrolling moments when you're like changing floors and stuff can be infuriating. But I don't know. It's something about it. Because actually, I played that before I played the first one. I think it was like right when Snake's Revenge came out. I saw it and I was like, oh, that looks, you look at the cover and
there's tanks and helicopters.
I think
this is action packed.
I'm kind of hazy on, stuff like what I played first for Metal Gear. I think it was Snake's Revenge actually. But it was like, hey, it's what's the guy? Kyle Reese from Terminator was on the cover of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's awesome! Terminator was one of my favorite things when I was a kid. So,
I mean, it's not even like it kind of look. No, it is like someone. I think someone back in the day put like a side by side, they took a screenshot of something in Terminator and put like, tell me that's not him, and it's like,
oh, yeah, absolutely,
it is absolutely on him. Yeah, there's no like, if you squint your eyes, it is. No,
it's like Contra, the Contra cover.
Who are the? Well, what?
Schwarzenegger and Stallone.
I guess I don't think they did as good a job. I mean, because they actually used like real. Well, the old arcade game actually had like real guys. They like, here, put these bandanas on and bulge your muscles out, and he'll hold a gun.
Okay.
But then like a lot of when it ported to Nintendo, it got more like they're actually drawn. They're not like a picture of real dudes.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But speaking of retro, I forgot to include it last time. So we're not gonna miss it this time. The retro game highlight. So, this is our way of including more retro besides what we've just been playing into the podcast, where we just highlight a game, not necessarily a hidden gem. Doesn't have to be the best game ever. It's just hey, this is a cool game. So, last time I talked about Tenchu Stealth Assassins. Mm-hmm. So, Justin, you got something for us this time?
Oh, I certainly do, my friend. I'm going to tell you about a delicious little game that started off humbly in the arcades, and someone went, hey, it'd be a really good idea. Let's port that to the Super Nintendo. And they went, stop digging, you've hit oil. And this little gem, I think it's a gem. It's probably one of the few Super Nintendo games I can literally I'm bored. I'm popping it in, and I can play for an hour, beat it, feel accomplished, and love every minute of it. And that's UN Squadron.
Okay, right on.
It is a side-scrolling shump, and I think a buddy of mine told me there was even an anime based on it. They actually made an anime. I don't think we ever got it here in the States. So, I mean, if you can find it, I don't know if that was true or not, but I was like, there's an anime? He's like, yeah, there's a whole story that why these guys are doing it. But the reason I liked that UN Squadron was you had 3 different people you could choose from, and they had strengths and weaknesses. So it wasn't just, you're player 1, here's your ship, do that. So I forget their names. I think one guy was Shin, and what his power was, you upgrade your main cannon in the game, and then you had a bunch of sub-weapons. You had heat-seeking missiles, bombs that just dropped off the bottom that were really powerful, Vulcan machine guns that went at an upward diagonal angle from your ship, and tons of other ones big plumes of destruction that just shoot out of your plane and come back in. And so his power-up was every time you got the power-up in the game to upgrade your main cannon, he could level up faster because you would need so many to upgrade to the next level. Mm-hmm. The blonde-haired dude, I forget his name, he flew an F-14 Tomcat. His was... I forget what his power is, actually. I never used him. I used the guy with the beard because he could take more damage than the rest of the guys before blowing up.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was just a fantastic game. I can pop it in. I can play it. I get really good music. It's got a really good, for Super Nintendo sounds, rock, I wouldn't say metal, but rock soundtrack, almost like a Mystic Quest.
Okay, sure. Yeah, like a hard rock.
Yeah, like a hard rock soundtrack that it paces itself well, and it's fun. It's enjoyable. Unfortunately, the Super Nintendo version isn't 2-player, but the arcade was. You could have 2 people at the same time. But,
right on.
Yeah, so I mean, if you like shumps and you love a good soundtrack and you want an enjoyable experience, and the greatest part is, it's not an expensive game. I think it floats around $10 to $15 loose. Mm-hmm. So if you like shumps, I highly suggest checking it out. It's probably it's in my top 3 favorite Super Nintendo games of all time.
Interesting. I don't believe I've actually played it before. I'm familiar with it just from seeing other YouTubers talk about it and stuff. But I'll have to check it out. And you are correct about the anime. There is an anime adaptation that's called Area 88. And I think Area 88 is the actual original name of it.
Okay.
The game, the Japanese version of the game, I think. But what's interesting is it came out in... Oh, crap, Came out in 79 through 86 was... Sorry, that was the manga. The anime was 85 and 86. So it's old school. So I know some of our listeners are old school anime fans. And what's I think is kind of notable is it's done by... You might not be familiar with the name of the studios. I'm not terribly familiar with the name of the studios, but looking them up, it was, I think, Puro and Group TAC. And Group TAC did stuff like Space Battleship Yamato, and the other studio did, just had a couple here. It was like Yu Yu Hakusho, which I've actually never watched, and like Urusei Yatsura. So they've done notable stuff. So might be worth checking out.
I might have to look into that, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So then I think we can hop into some news topics here. I want to start off with an actual correction of something that I screwed up. Just kind of stream of thought, rambling as I usually do. And we're talking about the Uncharted fan film featuring Nathan Fillion. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but no, we were talking about the actual Uncharted movie that keeps being rumored about. And I said that John Cena was slated for Nathan Drake, and I was wrong. John Cena is for Duke Nukem, is what the talks are. I'm not sure who they were saying for Uncharted, but I just wanted to correct that. I've had a few mistakes in the past and just want to make sure I'm putting out the correct information.
Well, that's nice. I'm sure they appreciate it.
Yes. So, do we want to start out with the big thing about Nintendo hating us, or do we want to save that for last?
I think both me and you have a lot to say about that. So let's leave that juicy one for last. I think we'll, because I think that's gonna be some meat and potatoes right there.
I'm sure people know kind
I'm
of.
already fired up. I'm already fired up.
So just hang on a few here, and we'll get to it. So then we're not so crunched to run through the other topics. So I just want to start out. This is kind of a mention that I've been thinking about this for like a week now or so, and I haven't really landed on how I feel about it. I'm uneasy feeling about it, but Bethesda won't be launching Fallout 76 on Steam. PC Gamer had an article that they did an interview with one of the developers or somebody, and yeah, they're going to be doing their own thing, have their own launcher, own server system, and I don't know. I kind of get it that these companies want to be their own entity, but I think I don't know. I guess I'm not a business. I'm not a game developer, so I don't know what the impact of using Steam as a service, because I know there are, fees that they have to pay to sell their games. But Steam is really, it's like the end all be all PC gaming service. I mean, there's so much into it that the other carriers don't offer. Steam has, of course, the storefront, but then you have all the communities and the discussions specifically like built into Steam, where people could talk about these games, and essentially a forum format for every single game on Steam. Great, like I said, great friends list system. You got to tie it in achievements and time tracking and all this just really nice stuff. Great security, and all these other companies are trying to like distance themselves and do their own thing. So now we got Origin, we got Bethesda already has their own deal for Elder Scrolls. Ubisoft has their own thing. Got GOG. Gotta have all these different services. What are your thoughts?
I mean, to be fair though, like stuff like good old gaming and all that, like I don't know the exact release of that, but what good old gaming was meant for was, and I actually was a victim of this way back in the day, is it was meant to bring back like a lot of classics that we had forgotten on PC back in the old Apple II and DOS days and stuff back when PC games were like type in this code, otherwise you can't play. And so like I mean, my specific story was I had just built a Windows 2000 machine, and I had bought from a used store this Police Quest collector's disc that had like all the old Police Quests on it. I'm like, oh my God, I remember playing these when I was really young, and those games were not meant for young people. Like you had to type exactly like open car door and stuff. It was like not for the young. And so I tried installing it, installed, and every time I'd play, nothing would happen. So luckily my roommate was an IT dude, and I'm like, dude, make this work. And he tried and tried and tried, and after like 2 hours, he's like, I don't think you can play this. I'm like, what? Is my computer not good enough? He's like, no, the disc doesn't. I don't think the drivers and the disc can talk to each other. Like your computer's too good. It's too, beyond its specs.
Yes.
And then I remember good old gaming. He's like, but you can get it there digitally. I'm like, oh my God. And so, but I really don't see a problem with Bethesda doing it. I think they're, I mean, who are you going to outsource that to and have it be stable? So I don't think it spells doom for anything. I do think it's odd. I think they kind of want to not share their revenue, because there's got to be some kind of, if you roll your stuff through Steam, we're taking a small chunk. They got to be taking 3 to 7% out of every time a copy sells, we get money, because it is literally the Amazon for virtual video games,
essentially. And I would think the trade-off is you get access to Steam's user base, which is massive.
Well, yeah. But at the same time, I mean, we're not talking about some obscure game,
That's
what
true.
company? I mean, this is Bethesda. When they speak, people listen. E3, when they're like, "Hey, you like Fallout?" and people are like, "Oh my God, yes, you did it again, yes." You hear Fallout, people drop what they're doing. They probably drop their babies to listen. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It just depends. I mean, for what we know about 76, I don't think it sounds like a pay to play, meaning a subscription based.
I don't think it's a pay to play, but I wouldn't. And this is where some of the rumors have kind of started to come in when I've seen some of these discussions. People are suspecting that by them removing Fallout 76 from Steam, in a way, it kind of separates it from the existing. I mean, it's still Fallout, but it kind of separates itself from the Fallout community as we knew it of Steam. And people are worried that they're going to have more. They can do more with pay to win functionality. They can. Maybe they're going to completely go away from allowing people to mod or having free mods. Maybe they're just going to do paid mods, and they can do that really easily and not have to change much with the dynamic that already exists. They won't be rocking the boat with Steam's community. So I don't know. I guess I'm more interested in the game ultimately.
I mean, I find it even weird. I mean, like even Final Fantasy 14. I mean, you can go to Square Enix's site, download it, or you can buy a physical copy, and however you play PC, PS4, or you can get it through Steam. So I mean, like even that MMO you can get through Steam. So it's kind of weird to be like, yeah, we're Bethesda. Because essentially what we're hearing is it's just a co-opt / PvP, if you want it to be, version of Fallout. So it's there's so much we don't know yet.
Yeah,
I'm waiting to see what it's going to be. I want more details before I'm like, yep, solid purchase. Don't even have to ask.
Yeah, for sure. I like I said, I have the collector's edition on pre-order, but the game's a while out, and I can make the decision once I see more about the game, because I'm kind of skeptical about the survival format. But I'm a big fan of Fallout. I'm pretty curious on how this is going to go, and I always want games to be successful, so I hope it's awesome. And
shizzle.
For shiz. Speaking of awesome, one of my favorite developers kind of have been mired in controversy the last few years, and one way or another, I think with more involvement with the quote unquote higher powers that be. But Bioware came out and said that they essentially are working on ideas for future Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Probably pre-production phase, I think. Maybe production phase. Maybe for Dragon Age, because it's been 3 years since Dragon Age Inquisition. And personally, I'm stoked to hear that they are continuing to work on Dragon Age and Mass Effect. I know you're a little more leery about Mass Effect, but I love Bioware. I loved Dragon Age Inquisition. I thought it was great. I mean, of course, Dragon Age Origins is the creme de la creme, and Dragon Age 2 I thought was fantastic as well. And my opinions on Mass Effect should be pretty well known.
Is there a big dude sitting behind you threatening to punch you if you don't say Dragon Age 2 was good?
I legitimately like Dragon Age 2. I avoided anytime there's a big game or even a game I really want to play, unless I'm really skeptical about the game, like I might look up like a review score or something. But when Dragon Age 2 came out, when Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda came out, I didn't look at anything like media blackout. Like I do that on games I'm super excited for. And I played through Dragon Age and I was like, there were some things that I could complain about, but I can complain about things in almost any game. And then I went online, started looking at reviews and what people are saying, and I was like, did we even play the same game? Apparently, I live in some weird dimension where I don't agree with anybody, but
it's so lonely where you are.
That's fine, because all that matters is I'm having a good time, and I'm looking forward to more Bioware. So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I want another Mass Effect. I want another Dragon Age. I love those games as well.
Mm-hmm.
When they came out, it was, I know a lot of people could be like, oh, when Dragon Age came out, you didn't, because of the Star Wars games, like
Yes.
Old Republic and all that, little unknown secret to you guys. I wasn't really a big computer guy back in the day because I didn't, like, if any problem happened with my computer, I was one of those people like, what happened? What do I do? Why, that's why I've always been more console heavy, because I put game in, system, push power. It either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't, there might be dirt or something, but it's not, oh, this driver and this protocol and this, oh, your network. I would have to have people come over and be like, make it work. Make it work. I don't want that when I play my games.
One thing I will say real quick,
sure.
That the kind of the whole computer troubleshooting aspect, I think especially in the last 10 years, I would say, has really become less of a thing. Like, typically, you got a computer that can, say you buy a computer, you're not going to have like driver issues. Like, I'm sure it happens, but not like it used to be, where you used to have to, manually go out and find every driver for your stuff. And, this driver might not work with this game, but it works with this game. Like, that's not really a thing anymore. So just for people, and I know a lot of people kind of have a very similar mindset that computers can be, too involved, scary and stuff, but it's definitely not what it used to be. It's a lot easier.
Well, I mean, of course, that's how technology works. It has to get easier, especially when you have people who just want to, like, okay, I want a computer to play some games, or the kid wants a computer. You want to just go to the store, wherever it may be, even if it's Walmart. You want to just go, buy it, hook the cords up, click a couple buttons to get it going, and then it should be pretty simple. I mean, within reason, So, I mean, like Steam, like literally you click, you buy, once it's buy, it asks you, do you want me to start downloading this now, or you want to download me later? And then once it's downloaded, it pops up a little icon on your desktop, double click, and you're off to the races. Like, it doesn't get any simpler than that. But back in the day, it's like you had Voodoo 2000 cards and these and this. And it was like, I was like, if I didn't have buddies that knew what they were doing, I would have probably never had a PC.
I had, like, basically my first computer was like a used computer that my family got, and it just, luckily it worked. It played the games that I wanted it to play, because late 90s, you tell the parents, hey, we should get a computer. It'll be great for schooling, be great for research.
Yep,
this
that
powerful
was
tool. And really, what I wanted was, I wanted to play. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn down my phone. What was that noise?
Boy, this family computer is really excited.
Yeah, my dad figured out. He just figured out the scam that I had back in the day. But at that point, Diablo. One of my friends had Diablo. I had Warcraft. Some of the other, like, older PC games, like, and especially at the time, like, some of those PC games were like pretty advanced compared to what we were seeing on consoles.
I mean, the old Baldur's Gate games and stuff.
So I was like, here's this machine that's kind of complicated, but it plays awesome video games. I want to figure out how I can do that. And I got my first one, and, like, the first time something, a game wasn't running well, I was like, how can I make this game run better? Oh, I can go out and buy this stuff called memory, and I can swap it in, put it out. It took a little research and stuff. Really little things. I did at one point, when I bought my first computer, when I moved out on my own was just a factory built HP computer, nothing special. I just got a pretty good deal on it, and you were able to buy, like you'd mentioned, the Voodoo 2s and things like that, and you're able to go out and buy this graphics card, and hey, all of a sudden your computer can play, even better games.
Yep.
And then I got to the point where, like, this is kind of silly when I'm spending this extra money. This company is building the computer, so they're charging a premium. They're throwing on all this extra software that I don't use, I don't want, that costs extra money. How do I cut all that out? And turns out one of my friends built computers, and kind of the rest is history. And way off topic there.
but the fans are learning a little bit about us, the viewers. They're like, and I now have a little personal window into your life.
I could talk about my PC gaming history to great lengths. That was a very, very abridged process. Like I've made some horrible decisions with computer hardware in the past, and have had some crazy things happen with computers, but gotta learn. It's all part of the learning process, and I kind of ran through the trenches back in the day and figured it out.
I mean, and then that's good that you were self-resourceful like me. I just was like, I put the disc in. Why isn't things happening? But
and I will actually say that my first computer experiences were actually like early 90s when I was in elementary school, and we got Apple IIs kind of stuff. So I had some previous experience with computers, and I don't know, technologies for computers anyways always had a video game aspect to it, so it was always incredibly alluring.
Well, cool. So,
and Bioware is one of the best computer game developers who also make for consoles now.
So to put the Sabin pile drive train back on track, I'm excited as you are for Mass Effect and Dragon Age. There were a couple, like I say, I played Dragon Age 2 multiple times, and I wanted to get different endings. When you're like, ooh, I romanced that chick, but the pirate chick, she's kind of hot too. Let's see how she does. And
I went right for the pirate chick.
Well, I didn't. Okay, I screwed up. Because I think you actually have to do some certain things in the right order to even get her. Like, she doesn't just like, oh, hey, I'm here.
It's been a while.
Yeah, anyway. But what I see is, if you even look at Mass Effect and Dragon Age, they both went away from the original idea, kind of. So, like, you have Mass Effect 1 and you have Dragon Age Origins. Like, Origins was like, I loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The story, the characters, all that. Mass Effect 1. Really, I forget how I even got into it. I think my buddy was like, oh, man, you're lucky you have an Xbox 360. You can play Mass Effect. And
like, one of my friends was like, it was when Mass Effect 2 is coming out.
Mass Effect 1 came out on PC, if I'm correct, right?
I think originally at first, and then it was on Xbox.
Because PlayStation never got it until they put like the 3-pack trilogy. Then they made it for PS3. But
yeah.
So I forget if I was watching my roommate play it on his PC. I'm like, oh, what's this? He's like, it's Mass Effect. And I'm like, what is this? And he's just like, oh, blah, 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 tells me. And I'm just watching him like explore these planets. And I'm like, I have to get in on this. And so what I mean is, like, when they started off, they had like an idea. And then like Dragon Age 2 jumped the shark from what Origins was. It was more of like a action-y button combo-y game.
See, and I don't know if that was the difference between the PC version, because the PC version really didn't change much. I could still pause, and choose my attacks and stuff. I just thought, instead of being this whole region that you're exploring, it's condensed to a city. I didn't necessarily feel like the scale of the significance of the story was smaller, because it has its place in the lore. But that's just kind of how I felt.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a complete train wreck. I'm not saying, throw that in the garbage if you have it. No, I mean, it does. I mean, certain things I did like I say.
They did kind of fib about, fib is, I think, a nice word. They essentially misled us regarding the dungeons and caves, like how they're all going to be randomly generated and stuff. And there was like 3 or 4 templates that would kind of you can't go down this door, you go this door instead. It's like, give me a break. And that was kind of disappointing. But at the same time, Dragon Age Origins had some of that too, mostly in like the random encounters that would happen when traveling. But that's less of an issue than.
And see, that wasn't even the problem for me, that they condensed it to one region. 'Cause, I mean, if you even take great games like Diablo 1, what do you have? You have entering the church to go farther in the depths and the town.
Well, those dungeons were pretty big.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like
some catacombs.
But you're not hearing people go, ugh, Diablo 1, what a train wreck. Ugh, you're just going downstairs. No, but then Diablo 2 opens up and you're going to different areas and regions and chat. You're like, oh, wow. Yeah. So I don't think I have no problem that Dragon Age 2 focused on a certain region. Origins felt more like, I mean, at least because, like I said, I played it on the 360. So even though I had a gaming PC at the time, I was big into, I grab a controller and off I go. And it took a little bit to get used to. I'm like, oh, they're really trying to do the old Baldur's Gate thing where like pause your game. Okay, you do this, you heal this person, you get some special, So it took a little bit. I'm not saying it was a huge learning curve, but it was a little bit. And once I got it, I was just flying through the game. I loved it. I was like, oh, there's romance options too? Oh my God, wow. Like I'd never seen that before in a game. And so, but then when I went to number 2, at least console-wise, like you're jamming buttons, like like you're playing as Hawk, like even the rogue, like it was almost like a beat 'em up. I felt very beat 'em up-ish, like, okay, punch, a normal attack, heavy attack, and then once your timer's up on your abilities, I can use twin blade attack until the cooldown's up. I'm like, and then they kind of slowly brought it back in, Inquisition, where it was more like, okay, people really didn't like number 2's battle, so to speak. It did. It felt really actiony to me compared to more strategic and thought out.
I mean, I won't argue too much about some of that, but I think you kind of said it well. We were kind of figuring out, topics and whatnot before. We do put some planning into this podcast. Might not always go as smoothly as I try to plan it, but it is what it is. But you said, you make a great game, you got to follow it up with a great game and not take a step back. And I definitely agree that 2 definitely didn't compare to Origins. I think Inquisition's up there. Origins is still one of my, I have a lot of favorite PC games, but it's like Origins is like a 10 for me. And Inquisition is pretty high up there too. Dragon Age 2 is pretty high up there for me as well, but it's understood. And then of course, the whole deal about Andromeda. I've talked about it ad nauseum in previous episodes of the podcast. I'm sure everybody kind of knows how that went. I still say check it out. You will be kind of surprised, but it is what it is. And this is probably going back to a previous episode. Myself and Jason were talking about it. Ultimately, at this point, though, I believe everything hinges on the success of Anthem. Bioware had their chance. EA or Mass Effect 3 had its controversy, but it was successful. Inquisition, I don't know if it met expectations. I know it did pretty well. Andromeda, I'm pretty sure it didn't do very well. I know it was not highly regarded. I don't know how that translates to sales necessarily, but as we know, EA is not really like you get a second chance kind of company.
No, not at all.
In a lot of aspects. So Bioware, Mass Effect Andromeda being of the scale that it was, AAA game, huge budget, didn't meet expectations. That's, That's strike one, you're out. But hey, you're Bioware, you got this legendary history. We're going to give you another chance. I don't think a failure should be the closure of a studio, but that's what EA does, because EA is a bunch of fucking douchebags, and they don't know what they got. And the reason why they've had the road bumps that they had with Andromeda is because of their corporate meddling, essentially saying, "Oh, you need to add in multiplayer. We won't release any game that doesn't have a multiplayer component," which is fucking stupid when you're making a story-focused single-player game.
I'd even one up and say, why do you need to fix what's not broken? That game series printed money. It printed money.
Well,
I mean, if you weren't in for the ride after Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, you were chin straps, people. Chin straps.
Pretty much. They kind of, in many ways, it was a very similar format to what happened. Not exactly, but a similar format with Dragon Ages. They had Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 were kind of a similar thing. Origins and 2, people debate how similar they were. In some aspects they were Inquisition took kind of the open world format, and that's essentially what Andromeda did. Andromeda is the Dragon Age Inquisition of Mass Effect, just not as good. There's definitely aspects they can improve upon. The story, and I don't mean to be repeating this. I'm sure listeners have heard me say this a few times in the past, but Andromeda, it takes a while for the story to get going. I know it shouldn't. People are like, I shouldn't have to play 10 or 20 hours of a game to, enjoy it. I mean, personally, I enjoyed it from the beginning. It might have not been like the most engrossing, gripping first 10 hours or 20 hours of a game that I played, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Like, every game can't be the best game ever. Not saying that we need to make sacrifices, but give it a chance. I think the story, especially like once the whole game story was going, I thought it was pretty cool. And when the game ended and kind of like the hook that they leave in was like, oh shit, I need an Andromeda 2 now. And then I go on the internet and everyone's like, fuck this game, it sucks. I'm like, what? No.
Now I will, not to hopefully drag it on too longer, but I do agree with you that when I heard a lot of people in the media and whatever harping on the, look at the facial glitching and like, I didn't care. Like, is the game broken? Like, can you not play it anymore? Well, no, just look at these are weird. That shouldn't happen. Like,
and I really think that's a lot of what it was. Like, I mean,
that doesn't bother me really.
BioWare games have always, they always have goofy faces. I mean, I'm not sure what people are expecting. Like, it was maybe it should have been better at certain moments in the game. Like my face is tired scene, like, and some of the glitches. Like, I have glitch videos that I recorded using Xfire. If anybody is familiar with that, rest in peace, Xfire. But I recorded clips because I used to be able to record clips with Xfire, which was awesome, years ago. But I got clips of glitches when I was playing like Mass Effect 2, in particular, Mass Effect 1 even, glitching through railings and like plummeting down this entire chasm that you had to make your way through. Normally, I was at the bottom in seconds, and I was able to reload and do it again. And I think sometimes people got to be a little bit more forgiving.
Well, now, do you say that as a generality or specifically geared towards things you like?
I don't know. When I think when it's warranted, when they're not like constantly repeat offenders, gotta give them a break, maybe, unless it's something like super scummy.
Sure. I mean, for me, like when people legitimately talk crap about Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, I'm just like,
I don't get it.
I mean, I don't mind that people do, but I think they do out of them judging the game and them not taking to accord they know it is, but they don't take it when they say their opinion that this was basically an insult from Japan. This game was made because they're like, oh, the Americans, they don't quite get how role-playing games work. So let's make it overly easy. And people are like, this game is stupid. It's a stupid crystal storyline again. That's not been overplayed, right? The dialogue, the battle, like, yeah, that's why it's insulting. It was too easy.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it at the time. I mean, I still do.
Yeah.
There's, it has its issues, but I thought it was fine. I mean, that, like, certain instances like that, I don't know. I feel once the internet became more prevalent in our discussions and people learned more about games is when some of these hate trains really started rolling. I always heard people say, like, Mystic Quest, back when the Super Nintendo was out, and throughout the 90s, essentially, people were like, oh, Mystic Quest is it's Final Fantasy Light. It's kind of like a beginner's RPG. It's simple, but they weren't like, oh, it's a bad game or it's a crappy game because of that. I mean, it was years before I learned that, yeah, they basically thought we were stupid, but then at the same time, they did the same thing with Mario 2, and I'm sure there's other instances where they're like, oh, silly Americans.
And that's why I go into it. Just like I think it's very different when people. It's like, hey, that's something I really like. Don't you dare say bad about it. But my feeling about people's opinions are, when it comes to gaming, as long as you have more to add than the game sucks. Well, why does it suck? Dude, it's my opinion. I can say what I want. Be like, well, that wasn't an opinion. That was a statement. Yeah. That game sucks. An opinion would be, that game sucks because, and people get really like, I can say what I want. But like, no, just have something to add to it. Why? Yeah. Let's discuss why you don't like it.
And actually, I will say for listeners and stuff, like, the fact that your mindset is like that was definitely one of the encouraging factors when you're like, hey, when you expressed interest in the podcast, because I do like how you do that. Like, even you call me out sometimes when I'm just being pig-headed or whatever, and you'll kind of like grind me. Like, even if I can't like eloquently bring up my argument, you'll still kind of try to push to get the reasoning. Like, you got to explain why, and you're really kind of, and I like that. And it makes for good discussion, and it calls people who are just talking bullshit, call them out on their bullshit at the same time. So, yeah. So enough of that. Just a quick mention here before we go on more rants, I guess.
It only gets better.
True that. Some people might have heard, I've mentioned it before, but there is a Metal Gear Solid or Metal Gear movie in production. At first, like, if this is new news to you, you might kind of be like, well, why would you, if you know me, you'd be asking, why do I want to talk about that when, I take a slight on Kojima personally. Like, I pretty much despise Konami as a company for what they did, kind of stuff. Like, I love Metal Gear, as we've already talked. I've been playing Metal Gear for 30 years. Last thing that we seen from Konami Metal Gear was what I think is an insult. I really think it was made as an insult to the Metal Gear fans, to the Kojima fans, was Metal Gear Survive, or the game that shouldn't be named, as I like to call it. So we're kind of like, they're crapping out all the franchises. We're getting pachinko machines for Castlevania and Silent Hill instead of actual games. So why would this movie be anything other than that? Well, kind of the neat thing about it is the director, who, I'm going to try to pull up his name real quick. I should have had that prepared. Jordan Vogt Roberts, or I think it's Vogt Roberts. It's a hyphenated last name, which,
well, that makes it fancy.
Yeah, pretty much. Sorry, I'm trying to. he worked on something notable before. Oh, he worked on, notable quotes, I guess. He worked on, he was the director for Kong Skull Island. It doesn't really add much to his credentials, but competent filmmaker, I guess. But he, when he got attached to the film, he's like, hey, I'm a fan of Metal Gear. I'm a fan of Kojima. He essentially said he wanted to make the most Metal Gear movie that he could. He wanted it to be Metal Gear. He wanted the spirit of, he wanted to channel the spirit of Kojima. So I'm hopeful. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm going to remain hopeful until I see it, and either I approve or it's a blasphemous atrocity onto the mankind, which a lot of video game movies are. But there's just been some progress. He shared a bunch of concept art just to kind of say, hey, we're still working on this. Here's kind of some visual ideas we're going with. They look pretty Metal Gear. I just wanted to give it a shout out because
I wonder if this is going to really get some steam and maybe get. I wonder if it's going to be like a B movie, or are they really shooting for like this summer, the game movie of the year, Snake.
Dude, should hit him up. Be like, hey, I got your trailer for you. Yeah, it will be interesting because I don't know the finer details on it. So
yeah, it doesn't sound like there's a lot right now, and good for him to be like, hey, I love this game. If you're not going to let me do it the way I want to do it, then you can find someone else to do it. So, but what does Konami have to lose at this point? They can just go, yeah, we'll you give us enough money, we'll let you use the license, because obviously they own the license to Metal Gear, and so it's all I can say is I remember when. It wasn't my first video game movie. My first video game movie that I can remember being excited for, and it wasn't even actually based off a video game. It would be Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Mm-hmm. We're not here to talk about that. I was using it as a reference point.
I liked it. I
did too, but I know people are going to be like, "Oh, here we go. Let's talk about it."
I saw it twice in the theater.
I have it on DVD and Blu-ray, so eat it. So was Resident Evil. I remember when I saw the trailers on TV. I'm like, oh my fucking yes. Resident Evil. It's going to make a classic horror movie. You don't even have to do that much. You just have to spice it up. I walked out of the theater going, what the fuck did I just watch?
Honestly, I was like pretty much the same. I do like it. I didn't think it was great, but I was definitely like, this is not what I asked for.
And that was the thing too. Like my buddy, because he wasn't. He was like, "Oh, Resident Evil, I know of it. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not as big a fan as I was because, like I said, my roommate, he was a huge PC gamer. I was the guy sitting playing PlayStation or whatever at the time. And but he saw it with me, and he just walked in. He goes, "Well, you have to remember that." You have to look at it from it's based on the Resident Evil franchise. They didn't say this is the first game literally put into script into a film. Like I'm like, yeah, but you took too much from the game, and then the other parts you're just like, well, let's just throw what's her name?
Jovovich.
Yeah, Mila Jovovich. It's like, who are you? I know her as an actor, and she's good. I love Fifth Element and all that.
Yeah, Fifth Element before that was the only thing I knew her from.
And so I was just like, okay, I know she's a decent actress, but I was like, who are you in the game? Like, who are you in the universe? What are you, just some random chick?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think. I'm like, okay, where's Chris Redfield? Come on, Jill. Where are you coming? Where are you coming?
Yep.
You have the laboratory, you have the Raccoon City, you have the zombies, you have this, but these random people, just random people. I'm like, oh, what did I just watch? Anyway, sorry, not to rant too much about the movie, but that's what I'm kind of hoping for. I hope they don't just use the moniker Metal Gear and go, well, we said the name, but this was like a European baking show, but we said the name.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna be hopeful about this. Maybe I don't want to say we're seeing a trend, but with something like how excellent the Castlevania animated series is. Maybe that gives more weight to giving the directors more opportunity to make these more in tune with the original thing. Or, you know, I guess I don't really know the process of a lot of the previous game movies, why they deviated as much as they did. Could be the director, could be the studios, focus groups, whatever. But I don't know, maybe this is the time when they finally start taking this a little bit more seriously and respecting the source material, which is something I always wish they would do with everything: comic book movies, video game movies, book adaptations.
Well, I'm going to ask you the same question my buddy asked me when we walked out of the theater. And I think it's an important question that gamers should ask themselves. I know we all, even if there was a room of us of 100 people and we all like super loved Resident Evil 1, specifically Resident Evil 1, the very first one, Biohazard 1. And we can all be like, we're super fans, but we could all have a different interpretation of what we thought the movie was what we would want as a movie.
Yes. Just
to kind of lay the groundwork here. So now my question would be, and to you and other people, if you're listening, if you answer it too, do you really want Resident Evil 1 from start to finish and just put it in movie mode? Like literally, like it starts off with them running into the mansion and then catching their breath, and Wesker tells you to go investigate the gunshot. And I thought about it. I was like, would I really just want? I'm like, I do, but I guess maybe I don't.
Right, because the transition, I mean, of course, the big difference is video games are interactive experiences where movies have to show you the story and keep you interested, where video games can keep you interested because you're controlling things, you're functioning and making characters do actions, menial or meaningful. So of course there has to be some liberties taken.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the characters and the story, those are the things I wish would be a little bit more in line with the source material.
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody kind of expects some liberties to some extent. Pretty much when it comes to adaptations, I always point to Lord of the Rings. I know some people disagree and don't think that's the greatest movie ever to be created, but I do.
Whoever do you mean?
And I mean, because that was a very, very faithful adaptation. I mean, and they took liberties as well. They changed some things, they left some things out, they included some things, because sometimes you have to, because the medium change doesn't transition as well. So you have to.
Sorry, I'm laughing for the listeners. Me and Church had like an hour and a half long debate because I told him I did not like Lord of the Rings. And also, I never read any of the books. Some buddies got me onto the D&D novels of Dragonlance, so I never read any of Tolkien's stuff. And so when the movies came out, it was an interesting, like, oh, good, I get to see what the books were about. And I am in the minority. I preferred The Hobbit. Speaking of the newer movies, not like the old animated British ones or whatever. And Church will not let it go. He's like, you are wrong more than you could ever believe. So that's why I'm laughing, because some people don't believe it's the greatest film ever.
Well, we all have our preferences. Sometimes I'm a little bit more pushy with mine, but I do want to say, Lord of the Rings, the films, is more than just the story. It's the technical aspects, the lengths that they went to not do CGI, to do practical effects, to do these amazing sets. Like, there's so much that made that a lightning in a bottle, more than just the story. Like, I love the Lord of the Rings story. I honestly, I was never a big reader when I was younger. I read The Hobbit. I read most of Fellowship of the Ring, but I didn't read Two Towers or Return of the King. I kind of leaned on the Bashki and crap, I can't forget the name of the other studio that did the animated films to kind of fill me in. And then my dad was also, he's a huge into Lord of the Rings, so he pretty much told me everything I needed to know up to that point. But I don't know. That's That's me, I guess. I mean, some people think like The Avengers is the best movie ever. I mean, those people are crazy, but
What's your favorite movie and why is it Lord of the Rings?
yeah, and I don't mean to keep us off topic too much, but I will say when I went and saw Clerks 2, which I was super excited for, and I saw it in the theater, as much as it pisses me off, that was, I mean, that's a lot. Kevin Smith's level of trolling, especially like at that point, like when the hype was like the biggest, was just on point. Like,
I think you need to explain why you're using Clerks 2 and what the troll is.
Yeah.
People don't know what you're talking about.
So first of all, if you haven't seen Clerks or Clerks 2, I really encourage it. Great movies. They're not like, slapsticky, goofy humor. It's all dialogue.
Heavy dialogue. Yes.
Heavy dialogue, and it's very witty. It's funny. Might not be necessarily like roll on the floor laughing, but it's intelligent, funny humor. I think some of it's not necessarily intelligent. It's very crude and things, but basically it's what made Kevin Smith kind of a notable name.
Oh yeah.
First Clerks, legendary. Second Clerks, I thought was pretty great. But he had, in the first movie, you basically find out that, there's this director definitely has some love for Star Wars, because there is some great Star Wars discussion. And in the second one, he kind of brings it on, and there's a scene where two guys kind of get into it about Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and they essentially mock the Lord of the Rings. He's like, let me sum up the movie for you. And the guy just walks, and then he like acts like he throws a little object down. He's like, okay, that's the movies. They need 3 movies to tell me that story. And that's kind of the running role when people are talking crap about Lord of the Rings. Just like, why didn't they just fly to Mount Doom?
Yeah, the Griffin argument.
Yeah, which is actually covered in the lore of Lord of the Rings and Samurai.
Do you see how he's just like, explained it? You guys weren't. He's. I'm glad you're passionate about it. I'm not. It's funny.
I mean, in all honesty, so many stories could just be condensed because there's, it's the journey. They made the journey. It wasn't an easy one, as we learn when we watch and hopefully you watch the extended versions, because that's the only way to watch it. But you'll learn that over the 13 hours viewing experience that is the epic of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Well, I mean, and I do get your point, though. You can't just be like, why didn't they just have, Dumbledore warp him over there and just blast him in the, and get rid of the ring? I mean, it'd be like, how many horror movies would not be an hour long if the person didn't just open the door or just leave the premise and be like, oh, there's a murderer here, I'm done, I'm leaving. Like, oh, well, that's the end of the movie.
I mean, there's lots of reasons why they couldn't just walk there, which was explained very well in Fellowship of the Ring. But the troll, I think, it's good.
Randall.
I love Randall. That's one of the characters. But it's funny. It's funny. So apologize, folks, for that. So let's rein this back in, and let's move into our next probably rant that we're going to go off in other wild tangents here. If anybody has been following things, there's some community outcry. I'm no stranger to it. I made posts about it on social media. But we all learned the sad news a couple days ago that EmuParadise, or EmuParadise, whatever you want to call it, has pulled all ROM access, all ROM downloads from their site, not because they were being sued, but because they were afraid of being sued, because Nintendo just made a lawsuit on 2 other known ROM hosting websites. So EmuParadise is like, we've dealt with this crap before. We can't run this risk anymore. So we're just taking our ROMs down. And
boo.
Rip EmuParadise. Do you want to give listeners just a quick rundown of what it is? What EmuParadise was?
So EmuParadise, for anybody in ROMs, are a site where basically people have stripped the program. So like Mario Brothers, the Nintendo cartridge, they pulled the game itself so that you could play digitally. That's a ROM. And EmuParadise was just a hosting site that was community fed. It was free, and it had everything from like Nintendo to Neo Geo ROMs.
It had everything from like fucking
PS1.
I'm trying to think of some of those old systems like that nobody knows about, like pre-Intellivision. I mean, they had pretty much everything, and not just the official libraries. They had, games that were unreleased in the US from other countries, translated, hacks,
homebrews,
improvements, retranslations. And
yeah. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, like, and I've stated this on social media already, but it's not that we're losing access to these ROMs, because the libraries are available in lots of places, but it's all that other stuff that I just mentioned. Not every site hosts all the same ROMs when it comes to translations and hacks and homebrews and stuff like that. So, even if I might not necessarily be able to say specifically ones that we won't see again, there are going to be thousands of ROMs that will never see the light of day again unless, they release their database to somebody or something. And that, I think, is the biggest hit. I mean, because ultimately this all boils down to the game's preservation aspect.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's first and foremost what EmuParadise was about. It was about, when all our hard copies of all our games go kaput one day, because it will happen. It's a sad truth. Mm-hmm. You listening right now, go, no, it won't happen to me. Yes, it'll happen to you specifically. Your Nintendo carts, the EROM or EEPROM, or was it?
Yeah, EEPROM, I think is.
EEPROM. It's just going to wipe itself one day, and you're going to pop in, Mario Brothers 3, and nothing will happen, and no amount of cleaning, blowing in it, anything. It's just gone forever. Done. It does have a shelf life. Your Saturn games were poorly pressed when they were made back in the day. So if you haven't heard of things like disc rot, well, the plastic they used to encode the disc inside was just cheap quality and done so quickly. Well, what's happening is the elements and time is starting to eat through the disc. So Sony apparently didn't have this problem. They took a little more quality, so theirs are a little more sturdy. But if you have old Saturn games, you can hold them up, take the disc and hold them up to the light. If you can see pinholes, that's disc rot.
Pinholes are, I think, like kind of like almost like water stains sometimes.
Can be too, yep. And so these places like EmuParadise, just for one of them, took all the data. And they say they didn't make any money off of it. I'm sure they had sponsors or ads, stuff like that. Yeah, but they weren't like, oh, you want to download Dragon Warrior 2 on Nintendo? That's $5. No, it was like, and they even said, you download this at your own risk. If you get caught, not like it was like, shh, don't tell anybody. But I mean, like, and also another thing too, that there's no way to get a lot of these back. One that was important for me was MAME, which is arcade ROMs. So you can download an emulator and play arcade games, like the old Ninja Turtles arcade game. I'm talking like the going to an arcade, pumping quarters in arcade machines. Midway releases like, here, you want to play Asteroids again? No, I don't want to play Asteroids. I want to play Cruisin' USA. I want to play all those other good games that you've never released. Well, I mean, yeah, they ported them to 64, but I mean, like,
there's a lot of arcade games that have never seen the light of day in another format.
Cadillacs, and they never will.
There's an example right there.
Yeah, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. I mean, like, even like UN Squadron, like I was talking about before, the port is a very chopped up version of the original arcade game. There's just stages and stuff that aren't in there.
Yes.
So this is why it's important that, Nintendo comes a knocking with their big bad lawyers going, oh, we don't like you doing that, because it took Nintendo way too fucking long to realize, hey, your old games, people still like those. I mean, look at them. It took them till 2017 to go, oh, we're going to make a little NES Classic, and we're going to put 30 ROMs on there. You know what that unit probably cost Nintendo to make? $1.
Yeah, not much.
It's a molded piece of plastic with a crappy little chipboard in it, and literally kilobytes of data on it. And there you go. And they're making $70 a crack on them, or $60 a crack on them. So then they go to these ROM sites and go, yeah, shut it down. We don't want you guys competing. I mean, how long it took them to get like their e-store? I mean, I remember when they first started going, oh, you can start to download Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. You want $5 a Nintendo game, $10 a Super Nintendo game? Jesus, how much money do you people need over there?
Right, and especially considering like some of these games, like the market or the like, street value of some of these carts is less than what they're selling them for in their eShop and stuff. And what I think, as far as the digital space goes with Nintendo, is the fact that none of their services is carried over. If you bought your stuff on the Wii, it was on the Wii and Wii U, and now the Switch is going to do its own thing. Yep. So, but at the same time, the argument, if we allow ROM sites to exist, people aren't going to buy our stuff. How well did the NES Classic and the SNES Classic sell?
Let's see. Sold out day one everywhere. The NES, the NES Classic first run, they didn't even tell you. I mean, even Reggie, whatever his name is, the guy who's the president of the North American Nintendo, he's like, "Oh, don't worry, we got more batches coming. We got more." Like, they couldn't keep them. You released them at holiday. You couldn't keep them in stores.
Right.
I mean, the scalping scene on them was ridiculous.
And I don't know. I'm sure there's probably a percentage, and it's probably a small percentage of affected sales that they have, because here's people, there are lots of people that do, they do emulation. They do strictly emulation. Mm-hmm. Retro gamers, we do have people who pirate modern games, but there's such a small percentage that I don't think it really has a major impact. I mean, a lot of these people wouldn't be buying the games anyways. I mean, typically when somebody can afford something and they have money, no sweat off their brow, they're going to do it, because I think ultimately people want to support the products they enjoy. With a lot of these old ROMs, like, there's no way to play them, no other way to play them, or they're going to charge you ridiculous prices over and over again.
Well, here, to add to that too, to say like the whole, oh, well, if you're downloading these ROMs for free, you're not paying us. I know people in real life that I see with my eyeballs that emulate on their computer, their phone, like your smartphones, you can download emulators, mm-hmm. and still bought NES classics. Still have a Wii U with old classic Mario Brothers, like from Super Nintendo, downloaded them. So Nintendo, you can take your fucking values and shove them up your browser and go, oh, we're losing money. You aren't losing shit. You out of touch with your own audience, fucking morons. I'm sorry. If you have any kids in the room, you better get them out, because cardboard's about to fucking go buck wild. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's there. I know there's more layers to the discussion. The legalities and this and that and stuff. If they don't do something, they're setting a precedent, and where does it end? Is a typical argument. And I think accessibility, affordability are a huge thing. Look at stuff like Netflix. What if Nintendo said, hey, we've been talking about our, upcoming eShop service. Well, we got something for you. Maybe a subscription fee, $10 a month, $5 a month. Here's access to our entire catalog of games: Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, GameCube, these games that you can't buy anymore on current systems, and, stream, play them and stuff. People would, like,
Oh, you mean Nintendo that's so super innovative finally caught up to Sony, which Sony's been doing that for how long now? Pay us one monthly fee and you have thousands of old PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 3 games.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Nintendo's like, that might work. That might be a good idea. Duh.
I mean, for the listeners, they know, again, no stranger to my displeasure and disgust with Nintendo as a company. I'm they put themselves in a unique situation, and I think a lot of people struggle with this. Is that here's a company, a terrible company. I mean, it's a business. Like, this is a business. Like, they want to make lots of money, and they do make lots of money, but they make some great games here and there, and people, I think, tend to forget that there's a company behind this. Breath of the Wild's amazing, but the company that made that is a very shitty company, and they've always been, like, ever since they first started with the NES. Like, they've been pulling shady shit, weird copyright. They try to corner the markets and this and that with, all the crap that they've done. And it's not the first time they've done shitty things like this. I mean, they've shut down ROM sites before. This isn't anything new, but really this just reinvigorates the conversation. And again, as a reminder of the importance of preservation, because if all the ROM sites were shut down tomorrow, I said thousands of games would be lost from EmuParadise. If we shut down all the ROM sites, it would be tens of thousands of games that would never see the light of day again. No access to play them. And that sucks because, I mean, as all of us are, we're all incredibly passionate about video games. That the history is important to be able to go back and play some of these old games, or say, hey, here's I'm a game collector. I've been hearing some really great things about this cart. Oh, wait, this cart's, geez, this is a $80, $100 cartridge. Like, do I actually want to just randomly go out and spend that? Oh, I can check it out on a ROM to see if I dig it. There's games. I have games. Like, I've been emulating since the late 90s. Back in the day, Nesticle. I don't know if you're familiar with Nesticle.
Yep.
The original icon was awesome because it was basically a nutsack. Back in the 90s, and I got to check out, like, games that I had never played before. I have games in my collection now that I discovered because I was able to check them out. It's, I don't know. I personally, I think it's maybe not to the extent of, like, quote unquote precedent setting by the two other sites. It was like Love ROMs, and can't remember the name of the other one that got shut down, that just got shut down through lawsuits. But this is just more instances, especially, we got Nintendo now pursuing ROM sites. Like, I don't know exactly why they went after those ROM sites. Why didn't they go after EmuParadise? Why don't they go after other sites like ISOZone or, this and that? But then at the same time, you got to look at the bigger picture of other things that are going on right now. Right now, we have government agencies debating about, who should have control on what is available on the internet. We're at the precipice of possibly, losing all access to, people want to say I'm being hyperbolic, but, you look at the reality of the situation of what some of these ISPs will hope to do in the future with controlling this thing that they say, well, we built the pathways, so we should control the pathways, which means we control what you can and can't access. And now suddenly, here's a ISP that says, okay, all these websites are kind of a legal gray area. We don't want to deal with it. Gone. No, not allowed. Absolutely not allowed. And we're at that. There's currently debates going on. This whole net neutrality thing that, some people choose to ignore. Some people think it's a liberal agenda. Some people think it's the the most important deciding factor moving forward with what the internet is, whether it remains to be. I think all kind of goes hand in hand in many ways. I think it's the bigger picture, and this is just a blow at that.
So now I'll go ahead and take the bullets out of the gun for anybody who wants to pull the defense of Nintendo. And if you're Nintendo, if you love Nintendo, hey, I love Nintendo too. I'm only a small handful of carts away from a complete NES, North American set on. I used to I still own a good chunk of Super Nintendo games. So I mean, I like Nintendo when it was. Nintendo now can eat the biggest, blackest dick in the world. And I'll tell you why. I'll take the bullets out of the gun. Well, they're just trying to protect their IPs. Look at the library. Nintendo's first-party games, sure. But everything else is third-party. They let the third-party people do all their work for them until, about the Wii and the Wii U. Then they're like, oh, no. Papa Japan wants to make all these games. Well, we're not going to let the third parties really muddy the waters. If they were so fucking concerned about their IPs, they would have realized when people were making these emulation sites years ago, like Church said, this wasn't just they just popped up yesterday. We've been doing this since the late 90s, early 2000s. And like you say, what if somebody wants to play Little Samson? I still don't even think Little Samson, if people don't, for people listening, if you don't know what Little Samson is, it's a $1,300 Nintendo game. Loose. Just the cart. $1,300. That's on a good day. Good day. I don't think I've ever seen that on any of the e-sites, unless now Nintendo's finally just been like, boom, every game ever put on our consoles is there. I don't know.
As far as I know, it's not.
So you don't even care about all the games for your systems. So if you were really protecting your IP, you would have had your lawyers doing this 10, 15 years ago, but you didn't. So it takes the fan base, and I'll use fan base in other terms, like the Metroid guys, the guys that did Metroid 2, they got a cease and desist. Oh, look what happened! Nintendo magically puts out a Metroid remake. Shocking. Oh, we didn't realize there was that much popularity behind it because you're so disconnected with your fucking own audience.
Yeah.
You are so disconnected. And the people in Japan running that company, I pray they put a bad bet in Vegas and lose it all. I hope Nintendo goes under tomorrow. I would not shed a single tear for anybody who works for Nintendo that makes decisions, not the people just doing their jobs, but the people high up in that company. I wouldn't shed a tear if they're like, oh, Nintendo got drunk and made a bad bet at Vegas, lost it all. They have no money. They're done. I'd be like, good. I hope you've learned your lesson, you idiots. Because they give you what they think you want. And now, Nintendo used to be innovative. They used to be awesome. I can't stand the Wii, not the system, but the controller. Like, oh, let me wave this stick around. Well, my arm's tired. Well, I don't want to play this game anymore because my arm's tired, and I have to keep waving my arm like an idiot. I remember how many people told me, oh, these motion controls are going to be the wave of the future. Let's see, lasted about, 5 to 7 years until people didn't like it anymore? Yeah, really took that company in far great places.
Well, you don't think the Labo was the next level of...
I tried to find positive reviews over the numerous amounts of parents going, my kid literally ripped it apart in the first 5 seconds.
Most people are like, it's fun for a few.
It's cardboard. It's fucking cardboard. Hey, people, if you're entertained by Nintendo branded cardboard, go to your local liquor store, ask for some of the empty boxes, get some scissors and a marker, write Nintendo on them, and have hours of fun.
But it's not officially Nintendo released, so it's not.
I wish you guys could see my jerking off motion I'm doing with my hand, because who cares? And that's what this is going to be great. Adults don't want to play with cardboard. So you're obviously targeting this to either really young teens and then younger children. Why don't you just give the button to a nuclear launch code to a 5-year-old? Let's see where that goes.
You can play a piano, which is something
4 keys. Yeah,
something you've been able to do for many, many, many years, and
I can
many other.
Phone app. I can download a free piano app on my phone or tablet.
Why
do I need Nintendo cardboard to do it?
I'm pretty sure you can go buy one of those cheap Casio keyboards that have built-in teach me how to play a song programming for the same price maybe.
So that's why I say is like there is no counter argument to this. There is no Nintendo's just protecting. Nintendo's just it's always gonna it's I'm not trying to offend anybody. So like I say, if you fall into the camp of being a Nintendo fanboy, and that doesn't just mean I enjoy Nintendo. No, I mean like if you're one of those like Nintendo does no wrong, shut up you meanie. Nintendo is terrible. They have no more new ideas. They're done. Why do you think it's taking this long to get a new Metroid out? Why do you think they are embarrassed to do anything on their own?
But we got a new Metroid.
It's coming.
We got Federation Force.
You know what? You and the Lord of the Rings trilogy can go sit in the corner now. Is that what you can do?
It's like, yeah.
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, go.
I was just gonna say it's like, in some ways, when people are fans of something, they want to forgive and forget, and I understand that. Like I said, I just went on for however long about BioWare. They've made some mistakes. But it's one thing to make some mistakes with a game or the direction of a game. But as a company, when it almost seems like they do things to spite the audience or like directly against what the audience wants. Like that just doesn't that's not good business. It doesn't make sense. Here's people who are clamoring for a Metroid game and they put out Federation Force. Like, what? Like you said, there's a big disconnect there. I've made comments in the past before, but there are cultural differences between American business and Japanese business, and in some of the different experiences with or things that I've seen and read about other Japanese businesses, in some ways you got to keep in mind that 60 years, like not even 2-3 generations ago, like we still had essentially like these feudal dynasties running the companies that they had. Even currently, like some of these like really old CEOs of companies, they have these backgrounds, and it's like we are the decision makers. We are the geniuses. We're the your gods. You are just peasants that lap up what we give you, and you will like it. That kind of mentality is how I feel sometimes. And I think that's some aspects of it too. Is just like some business practices. And some people argue, well, what about the developers? They don't want to make another Metroid game or this and that. And I'm very skeptical about that logic there, because I mean artistic vision and creativity is very important, especially in video games for me personally. But I think they get some chances. Like Nintendo definitely is like, okay, we're gonna let you kind of run wild with this. Then we get Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey, but the spans in between, the greatness is.
It takes forever. It takes fucking forever. And you know what we're gonna get though? You get the nice Call of Duty-esque Smash Brothers, because that's just going to get cranked out. The Switch has been out for what, about going on 2 years now? About maybe 2
year.
Year. No new Mario Kart on the horizon. No, you just get the Wii U's version, but with like a couple more bells and whistles. Wow, how fucking lazy can you get? And I know you could be like, well, easy now. They spent a lot of time making Breath of the Wild, like you say, fantastic game, great. You pulled one out of your ass, Nintendo. Hoorah! It could have literally been Link taking a shit on a fucking Hyrulean toilet for 12 hours, and people still would have bought it because it says Zelda.
That I will not debate. I find that very true.
But I wanted to comment on what you said, like, if there were the developers and the writers and the creators of Metroid said, we don't want to do another one. And I want to see that news article. Give me a PC gamer, or give me a whatever, Kotaku going, oh, we talked to the head designer of the Metroid series, and he's just like, no, fuck it, I'm done. I don't want to do another one. Then I can
that's the thing too, is Nintendo franchises don't have, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've never had a unified vision. Like the Zelda series has always been different people, different approaches. Like, there's not, Zelda doesn't have a Kojima. Mario doesn't have a Kojima. Metroid doesn't, So,
well, technically Mario does. Mario has, what's his name? What's like the grandfather of Nintendo? What's his name?
Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah. So I mean, technically they do. He's
is been a
producer.
Genius. He's been a producer. He hasn't directed games. I don't know about Odyssey, but if you go back and look, he's pretty much just a face these days. He doesn't. I don't think he actually has much decision making involvement in these games. They'll show it to him, and he's respectable Miyamoto. He made Super Mario. What does he say? And he's like, yeah, I dig that. And they're like, okay, cool. Or he's like, I don't like that. And then the other decision makers are like, oh, he doesn't like that. Change it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not taking away. The man has quite the resume on his hands for what he's had a hand in, and a lot of the things he touches is gold. It really does. If Nintendo gave a damn, we would see it. And to further my point on that, it ain't. Sega has also done fan things that people have tried to do, like Sonic remakes and stuff like that. And Sega's been like, whoa, cease and desist there, buddy. So it's not only Nintendo's not the only one. I understand. I think it sucks when I hear the guys who did the Metroid 2 remake, and Nintendo goes, knock knock, that can't happen. I completely get that. I don't get that upset. I don't. I maybe go, Nintendo, damn it. And then Nintendo finally actually did. Like I say, they took it. Okay, if you guys want a remake number 2, fine, here you go. And it is a great game. But here's the thing. It isn't Sega going to these ROM sites and going, hey, take it down. It isn't Sony. It isn't NS.
Primarily, Sega has.
Yeah, but here's the difference.
Right.
Sega doesn't have the money to do it. Nintendo has an unlimited bank account and an army of lawyers. They're basically like Disney. You want to fight our lawyers? We have a shit ton on retainer, and they are hungry to eat you.
Yeah.
And these sites, some of these sites, if they're in a third world country or something like that, they're in Russia. What are you going to do? We're going to sue you. Good luck. The Russian government isn't going to do anything for you. But they're probably the reason why EmuParadise specifically probably backed down is there's something to lose.
Yes.
People don't back down on the internet when there's nothing to lose. They're like, well, okay, whatever. You're going to sue us. Have fun with that.
Yeah, and as I said, the people who are involved, they didn't want to put them in risk's way. They didn't want to potentially destroy people's lives, over the service that they provided, which I think was, a great one, and I appreciate everything that they did. And kind of brings me back to one of my initial thoughts is that, this isn't, it is it's, we're talking about EmuParadise shutting down and that being a sad thing, but it's the bigger picture. It's the precedents that's being set and the things that are happening that, people are like, well, it's on the internet forever. I would argue that. I really would. Sure, people can make backups and stuff, but to some extent, there's a good chance in a handful of years, like I said, this, won't be available to access stuff like that. So I think it's important. I think, there's a lot of, back and forth, different angles, different approaches. There's a lot of people that say, I understand why Nintendo's doing it. I don't like it, but I get it. And, ho-hum, whatever. But I wish people would be a little bit more vocal about it, I guess, a little bit more passionate about it. If you've used ROMs at any point to discover a great game, like just think about not having that opportunity. You never had that opportunity, so you never discovered these games. And people are like, oh, well, there's other games, whatever. And I don't know. And people can scoff at people being upset about this. I think it just is counterproductive. And, I think we stand to gain so much by preserving all of this stuff and making it accessible if it's not going to be easily and affordably accessible to everybody.
And let me make 2 points here before we should probably move on. Otherwise, I'll just sit here and keep calling Nintendo's fucktards. Well, think about it. They've already made their money on these games. This isn't like, we're stealing everything. No, if you download a Mario 3 ROM, they've already sold it to you probably 4 different times. You bought it. You might have bought it back on the Nintendo, then you might have bought it on Mario All Stars, and then you might have bought it on the Game Boy Advanced Mario Double Pack or whatever. You might even bought it on the Virtual Console, on your Wii or Wii U. So you've already bought this game probably 4 fucking times. You have probably spent damn near $100 to play Mario 3, and they want to come in and go, yeah, we don't want you downloading that for free. Fuck you. Yeah. So that's why I say, if anybody wants to defend them and go, well, they're just protecting their LP, you can just go sit in the corner of shame, because that's you go over there, be shameful, and you should be. And 2, if people are worried, if you're like, oh, geez, I didn't, you guys are making it sound like it's the end of the world. If you are interested, or you wanted to get into ROMs and you wanted to get an emulation, the emulator program to play the ROMs, you can still probably get that at a lot of places. But if you're curious, I know there are a lot of people that are uploading their every Nintendo ROM packs on torrent sites.
Yeah, I one of my friends, I guess I won't name him specifically in this instance.
Probably shouldn't. Yeah.
Not to bring him any flack, but I'm super glad he did. Even though, you could still find plenty of sites that host a lot of complete sets and stuff like that. But he's like, hey, here you go. Send me a link. And as of, earlier today, when I finally got everything downloaded, I have pretty much everything from the original systems through, the last cart-based systems. So I need disc stuff when disc stuff gets significantly larger in size, but I got, full libraries, lots of translations and hacks and
I have to get a copy of that from you.
Yeah, so keep fighting the good fight, people. Keep preservation alive, keep archiving alive.
Yeah. Just believe you me, I have another. if Church could stand it, I could probably rant and I'm bringing up legitimate time. Not just Nintendo sucks because they suck. No, I could probably rant for another hour straight with original content that I could bitch about that people probably don't think of on a daily basis. I didn't really think of Nintendo that way.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll have similar conversations in the future. Again, next time something like this happens.
Press F to pay respects. Oh,
absolutely.
Oh God.
Yeah. So, I just had one other little thing I wanted to squeeze in here because it's one of those, I think Peter Griffin, Family Guy, what really grinds my gears. So, I think it was later last week. It was very recently. There's a story that came out. I don't remember who originally released it, but once it came out, it kind of spread like wildfire. And the headline was, Nintendo officially responds about how NES or NES is correctly pronounced. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be stupid, but I hope for the best. So I go and read the article. Apparently, some dude, some guy on Twitter, some gamer, was playing the Japanese version of WarioWare. And apparently in the game, they have some galleries where you can look at some Nintendo history and stuff like that. And when you select these objects, there's a character or something that says what it is, I guess. And apparently when you highlight the Nintendo Entertainment System, it says NES. So the guy's like, hey, Nintendo officially said it's the NES. He puts it out there. Now all these people are like, oh, yeah, it's NES. I've always said the NES. You are fucking wrong. And here's why. So, I mean, it's for one, it's an acronym. A lot of acronyms, you say the letters. People argue, what about NASA? Longer acronym. You argue, say the NASA, which you could, but sometimes it's easier. NES, I think, is okay for it's more slang, slang abbreviation or slang acronym. NES is abbreviation. When they talk about the Super Famicom, do they call it SFC? I'm gonna play this. The people who say SNES, like it's SNES. It's goofy. It brings back my triggered days of the debates over the .gif, GIF or GIF, when apparently the creator of GIF came out and said, no, it's GIF. And I said, you're a fucking moron too, because it's not graphical. I forget exactly what it is. Actually, here, just let me do this real quick.
I think I know what you're doing, and yeah, because you don't call it.
It's not graphics interchange format. It's graphics. That's a G. It's GIF. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I don't know the guy. I think, again, I don't know. Maybe his ego is that big where he thinks he's can change how language is spoken, or it's just a massive troll on epic proportions. But it's GIF. It's GIF. And it's NES. If you want to say NES, that's fine, but that isn't the quote unquote, in my opinion. I guess maybe it's all opinions. I just wanted to rant about that.
No, you're fine. Like I say, if some guys gonna be like, see, and it's like at the same time, like there's like the age long debate whether Final Fantasy, the very legendary summon of, I say, Bahamut.
Yes.
Some people go, no. It's I forget what culture. I want to say Indian culture. It's
Is it like Baphomet?
Baphomet or Bahamut. Yeah. Now I could say, well, wait a minute. I think in Advent Children or something, the voice actors were told to say Bahamut.
Yes. Especially like if it's not coming from a unified source, like all the time, I give less support to when those situations happen. But I guess it could be argued in many ways. But like I said, I'm going to argue. Is it this?
Yeah, I did like that.
So, yeah. I didn't have much to say. I just wanted to call out that just for funsies. Ultimately, who gives a shit?
Like back when I used to play Magic the Gathering, people would have debates. It's mana. No, it's mana. Yes. Who cares?
When it comes to things like pronunciations of a word, like I might, I'll adjust how I say things sometimes. I'm trying to think of an example. I don't really got one. The mana thing, I can go either way. Sometimes you might hear me say mana, but usually I say mana.
Mm-hmm.
I will give a shout out to Dongled, the YouTube channel. He's known for Dude, You Haven't Played This Game Yet. And he did a series, I forget exactly what it's called, where he tries to discover the correct pronunciation of some things, like the planet from Metroid 2. Is it Zebes? Is it Zebes? Is it Zebus? Like it's cool, and when you can gather that amount of information and provide your argument, I'd be more inclined. But when you say an acronym is correctly pronounced, if you speak it like a word, is always going to be wrong, I think. But maybe it's an adaptation at the same time. So I don't know.
You had something to talk about and you did it. So thumbs up for you, gold star on the refrigerator on your little check mark sheet. So I'm proud of you.
So with that, then let's jump into the community question. So last episode, the question that we threw out there was, what is your favorite controller and why? So let me pull up some comments here. We'll go over the comments first, and then we'll share our thoughts on that. I'm a little unorganized here. So let me just kind of run down the list here. Torture Vision says he doesn't miss the days when controllers changed drastically from system to system. He likes stability. That's why he enjoys his current PS4 controllers.
Amen.
Which look very similar to previous PlayStation releases. Then we got Eric DeGraff says his favorite controller is the SNES by far. Second favorite is the PlayStation controller. Then I know we had more. I'm not.
Black Metal Gamer didn't say anything.
He did.
Because we know he said.
Oh, here we go. I got it. Sometimes it takes a second because I got to read. He says, besides him loving to use the Joy-Cons in his mouth, playing 1-2 Switch, milk the cow game, his choices for best controller is the PS4 for modern, and for retro, the SNES.
I'm loving how much Sony. I love the Sony love. I really do.
Yeah. Where's I have some friends who they love the Xbox controller, and there's a lot of people that do. There's kind of like a ongoing debate of what is the best controller to use for PC. Kind of universally, it's almost universal at this point that it's Xbox, because it's almost a lot of games and even Steam like specifically say, hey, we support Xbox controllers.
Yep.
But PlayStation controllers are supported now. PS4, you can plug it in, play your Steam games. Before, you had to use like a program to translate.
Yep.
And kind of a drag to with some games is some games will detect that you have a controller if you plug in your PS4 controller, but they don't actually change like the names of the button prompts. Like Shantae Half-Genie Hero, when they tell you their buttons, it's the Xbox buttons and not like the PS4 buttons when I have that plugged in. So I'm just trying to double check, make sure I didn't forget anybody here.
Well, while you're looking, what's your answer for it?
So me, I'm probably not too surprising, but I love the PS4 controller.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was a big fan of the PS1, PS2, PS3 controller, but I think they really nailed it with the PS4 controller. A little bit more contoured. Just it feels better. I don't have big hands. Some people say if you got big hands, the Xbox controller is better. I don't know.
Oh, you went in a completely different direction than I thought you were going to go with. If you have big hands, controllers.
Well, but it's I don't know. I like the grip of the PS4. I like the tactile feel of it. I like how they made R2 and L2 kind of more triggerish. than just buttons. Like, you can kind of just catch them like triggers. The touchpad, even though it's not really, I don't use it too much. It's a cool feature.
Yep.
Especially if you get, essentially you just got to get good and you can type with it pretty well. I do like
the video gamers solve all. Get good.
Get good. I love the light bar on them, especially like, if you got, for instance, when my friends and I were playing Guns, Gore, and Cannoli 2, we had PS4 controllers hooked up, and it automatically says, oh, hey, we got multiple PS4 controllers, so we're going to make your lights different colors. Some games incorporate that light into the gameplay. Resident Evil Revelations, I think Revelations 2, if most of you are familiar with Resident Evil, usually you'll have kind of like the heart, I forget exactly, heart monitor. It'll change colors. Green, you're great. Yellow, oh, you're getting some damage. Orange, oh, red. Where the controller light changes, and I think it's kind of neat. And I could kind of take it or leave it, but there are some times when even the microphone or the speaker function on the PS4 controller, when it's kind of throwing out information through the microphone instead of like through the speakers, I think can be kind of neat. And I do want to give a shout out to the Wii U Pro Controller. Like that's a damn nice controller. It's comfortable. For me, it's very reminiscent of the PlayStation controller. But the thing that, it jumps that controller up so high over so many other controllers is, so we were both hanging out, Justin and I, when I started Breath of the Wild. I played a couple hours trying to use the tablet. And I was like, I don't like this tablet. Hey, you want to run with me? Run to the store real quick, and I'm gonna run to GameStop and get a Pro controller. So we did. Got that Pro controller. I charged it as soon as I got home. I just plugged it into the system. So I'm charging it as I'm playing. I can't say for certain. I think I kept it plugged in overnight, maybe. So, it probably had a full charge. I unplugged that. It was at least 75 hours that I did not plug in that controller. Swear to God. I really do not recall plugging that controller in a single time other than that initial charge. And that was like, is this thing like a tool of demons? Like, I don't understand the voodoo magic that went into this.
Apparently have a small nuclear reactor working in there.
It freaks me out, but it's awesome. So I want to give a mention to that.
I have 4 Pro controllers because I like to have Mario Kart parties, and not one of them. Like, I usually have to. I think the most I get out of a Pro controller, maybe 6 to 8 hours, maybe. And so that's why when you're like, dude, I played. Because I remember the second day after you had plugged it overnight and woke up, you're like, is this thing supposed to last this long? I'm like, not really. You must have just got a nice one. So
yeah, it's
because I know you wanted a brand one. You're like, I don't want no off-brand one. So you wanted a Nintendo brand Pro controller. So
yeah, because I don't even know what the Pro controller, like what it does when the batteries run out. Like, does it flash a light? Does it give you a notification on the game? Like, I don't know. Like, it's crazy. Like,
actually, all of those things, yes.
Like, how is it even possible? Like, I just don't understand how my controller stayed charged for like 70 hours. Like, people kind of scoff at the PS4 controller. They're like, oh, it's crappy because, it only stays charged for like, I don't know, it's maybe like 10 hours. I'm not sure. I guess I never really pay attention too much. I don't let it die. Like, usually I get the notification, but I can play pretty long sessions over a few days and not have to charge the PS4 controller.
Well, and I look at that like, how many hours do you? I want more than 4 hours per controller. So I'm not gonna knock the Pro controllers like when I was like about 4 or 6 hours. it's so when people, if they're going to bitch at the PS4 controller only goes about 10 hours, like, first of all, what are you doing? What game are you playing for 10 hours straight? Not saying it's uncommon for people to do that, but like, did you go to the bathroom at all? Did you go for a smoke? Did you go get lunch? Anything? You could have just plugged it in, gave it an extra hour here and there as you're like eating lunch or switching out the laundry. So
yeah, I shouldn't have to. I gotta walk up to my PlayStation, plug it in, or you don't even have to plug it in your PlayStation. Plug it into any USB charger.
What I was going to say, here's a pro tip for people: plugging it through the system is kind of like plugging it in like the shitty USB ports on a PC. It's the slowest trickle of energy. I have one of for my Samsung phone, I have those like fast adaptive chargers. Just throw a USB throw a USB cord in that thing will charge your controller like lightning quick.
Yeah.
It's letting more energy through.
Yep.
So just a pro tip. First one's free. Next one you got to pay.
Yeah. And shout outs, any other shout outs to controllers? The Super Nintendo controller is a nice controller.
It's a classic design, and it needed nothing more and it needed nothing less.
And it pretty much like, I don't know if we'd have the PlayStation controller if it wasn't for the Super Nintendo controller.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, to add trigger buttons, I was like, what are these buttons up here? Like, interesting. I don't know when I'll ever use those. And then you find yourself using them all the time. I was like, good call.
And I thought it was kind of funny, I don't know if it's necessarily true, but I do recall, back in the day, Super Nintendo came out, you'd be around older family or maybe like friends' older family or, whatever. And like, that was like the that was the line from, okay, I'll try this to, oh, there's too many buttons. Too many buttons. I don't get this thing. And then, then they move up a generation. PlayStation adds, 2 extra buttons. Oh, Jesus. Super Nintendo. I could wrap my head around that. PlayStation, too many buttons. Too many buttons.
Too many buttons. You went from 2 to you added 4 more. My mind is melting over this possibility.
Yeah. So,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, any other thoughts on controllers?
Well, I'll give my answer. As much as I was padding along the PS4 controller, which I love, but for me, when it comes down to if I have to choose my ultimate controller, it was too late. I love the design. It's a classic design. It's solid. But for whatever reason, I like how Microsoft and the 360 specifically took that analog stick from the bottom center and went, let's take that left one and just throw it way up in the left corner. And I don't know why. I think that's a lot more comfortable. And partially due to the fact is when PS3 came out and Xbox 360, I did not have enough money to buy a PS3. I was just like, sorry, that's way too much. And I had a 360 and a lot of my friends had 360. So, maybe it's just one of those like muscle memory things where you're just like, I've been playing 360 for so long. It just feels natural, but I do. Like, even when I play, like, there are certain games on the PC that I use a 360 controller for. And then when I jump on my PS4, obviously, one of the things that bothered me that Sony did is they always, I think I have the terms right, they convex their analog stick. So it was always like that mushroom topped.
Okay, yep.
Xbox was always convex, where it dipped in, so your thumb kind of naturally sat in the analog stick. Well, the PS4 is the first one they made where it's like, oh, yeah, we finally realized, stop making them domed, make them in, so your finger sits in there better.
And actually, I guess it's been a while since I've like spent a ton of time with the PS3 and before controllers. I play PS4 pretty much all the time because I'm trying to keep up with stuff. And if I do play long sessions, I will say the concave or whatever, it actually makes my thumbs a little sore. Like if I'm like really like grinding on a game or something, I'm like, oh man, I kind of wish this was rounded a little bit.
Wow.
Cause I don't know. I don't know if it's, maybe it's just I have small, dainty hands, and I don't need, or I don't know, because it seems like a lot of people like the PS4. I guess is kind of known for people tearing the thumbsticks and stuff. I don't know if you've heard much about that. I know a few people that have their thumbsticks have like cracked and worn off, and it's like, man, like I can't even put that much force on. And if I do, that's like I said, my thumb kind of just like on the edge, because the way I guess my thumb like sits over the edge of that concave. So after a while, kind of like starts to just kind of like dig in a little bit.
I've never had mine. I mean, I play with the analog stick so much that the rubber just eventually wears out. Like you get down to just a little plastic that the rubber is surrounding. Mm-hmm. But I've never had mine just like split or break. And
yeah, it's weird. Like especially with PCs, mice and keyboards. Like everybody I know, like they'll wear out keys on their keyboard. Like I've spent thousands of hours on some of my keyboards, and I've never worn out a key. Like I used to have, this might just be like, jargon or whatever, but I used to have a Logitech G5 mouse, which was like, 10 years ago, it was like the gaming mouse. Like it was nice and, super contoured, and you could put weights in it to like give it like the right feel for you. Only reason I replaced my G5 was because why not? I've had this mouse for I think I just replaced it a year or two ago because my friend gave me a mouse. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, I'll step up to something else. It has the newer mice have a few extra features, and I was like, yeah, okay, those are kind of cool and stuff. But like my like where your pointer and middle touch, like those spots weren't worn out. Like my friends are like blown away. Like, how do you like even touch your mouse? Like, I don't know. I don't know what I do differently than other people. Like I said, I've put thousands of hours on some of these keyboards that I've had, and I've never worn a key. Or my friends will have like WASD and spacebar, like big wear spots. You can't even see the letters on the keys.
Yeah. It doesn't say W. It used to.
And it'd be like, oh, well, cheap keyboards. No, some of these keyboards, I mean, especially now, even like high-end keyboards, these mechanical keyboards and stuff, like they're wearing those keys out just as much as they did with the membrane keyboards, and even old, like, well, I guess probably not so much now, but people, the old mechanical IBM keyboards and stuff that people had for years and years. So, but yeah, I not to steal your thunder there. The Xbox controller.
No, we're having fun here.
A lot of people think the Xbox controller is great. My brother, I have other like close friends. Pretty much everybody uses the Xbox controller. I haven't really spent any time with the Xbox. I've had an Xbox and a 360 now for like 2 years, and I still haven't played them. I'll get to them at some point. There's this backlog will be conquered one day. But I've actually thought about like maybe because you can get Xbox One Elite controllers.
Yep.
Get them with like you can get like custom from Microsoft. You can get like custom printing on them and stuff. Okay. I was almost thinking about like getting one with like, maybe my like, channel logo or something on it. But I'm like, I as is, like I'm loving using the PS4 controller for the PC games, and maybe if I picked one up, then all of a sudden I'm gonna be like, oh, PS4 controller. What was I thinking?
Well, that's why I say when I PC game, I use my 360 controller just because it's a familiar friend. Like, I have no problem with the PS4 controller. Even when I'm like watching Blu-rays, like those two trigger buttons that hang off the back, there's no guard like the 360. Like it's an encased, and the button recedes into the casing. Mm-hmm. PS4 is just letting it all hang out like a freak, and it's like you have to put them down gently because it's like, oh, you hit the L2
yes,
or L, like, and it's
that is true. That is true. I had that happen with the Wii U Pro Controller when I was playing Breath of the Wild too. If like I'd have to set the controller down for a second, like all of a sudden I got Link like, doing whatever.
So it's like I honestly miss the PS1, PS2 controllers, how they were actually set in the controller and they just recessed down. Not this like, I mean, maybe it's better feedback for some people or whatever, but the PS3, I didn't like those two triggers, and then the PS4, they kind of did better, but they're still, I'm like,
Sure.
But overall, a solid controller. I do like it.
I will say, I think anybody who says, and I don't want a blanket statement. I was going to make a jab at the Nintendo 64 controller being a piece of garbage.
It is a piece of garbage.
But I know those people are all like, oh, it's a good controller. No. Come on.
How much better at GoldenEye would we all be if we would have had like a PS1 controller? 100 times better. That's how.
Yep. Someday I'll get one of those. I think Hori made
the GameCube 64 controllers.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Expensive, fortunately, at this point. Snooze, you lose, I guess, when it comes to that stuff. Yeah. So, any other final thoughts on controllers?
Nope. They're all unique and great in their own ways, but we always have our favorite.
Absolutely. So then, for our question for next week, I had one idea, and I was like, okay, let's try this. So, question for next week is, what is the best game you haven't played? So, a lot of us I know have these backlogs. We have lots of games that are going to be great games. But for the games that you haven't played yet, that you want to play, what is the best game that you haven't played yet? So let us know, and we will have some fun talking about this one on the next episode, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to really think about this one.
I got a couple, I think, that I think a lot of people will be like, you know what, yeah, those are pretty high up there. So we'll see. I think it'll be a fun discussion, and I'm pretty curious to see what other people throw in there too. And like, is there an interpretation with this question? I'm not sure. So we'll find out. But with that, I know we're getting a little long here. But real quick, I just kind of wanted to run through some mentions of games coming out in the next couple weeks in case you forgot about or you didn't know about it. Just some games that might be worth checking out. Well, I think are worth checking out. I might be playing them, I might not be playing them, but hey, getting the information out there because knowledge is power. So actually, I'm going to back up a couple days here because now we're trying to record on Mondays. Things messed up, so we're doing a Thursday recording. So I didn't want to just skip over some games that we didn't cover last time. I think I did mention Dead Cells, but Dead Cells is out now, getting really high reviews, which I was kind of surprised about. I was just expecting it to be kind of like a cool, like roguelite Metroidvania game, but it's pretty much getting high praise like everywhere. So I'm pretty stoked for that. Then there's more ports as always, but one game that I'm very curious about, I don't know if I'm going to be on the fence or if I'm just going to go for it, but I'm looking forward to We Happy Few, which comes out in a few days, actually, or tomorrow at the time of recording this podcast. And it's essentially, if I remember correctly, because I haven't really followed it too closely, it's some of the developers who made BioShock. So it kind of has some visual or aesthetic elements of it, kind of a bizarre story, creepy, looks really cool. I'm hoping it's a good one. Then we got The Walking Dead final season is starting up. I still need to play Season 3 and 4. I'm disappointed in myself for falling behind on those games because I absolutely love The Walking Dead Season 1 and 2. Then we got, for the MMO fans out there, I know a lot of people are really hyped for World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know if this is the final one or not, but it's kind of sounding like, this is going to be a big shift in some of the story, kind of taking things back to some of its roots of what the original conflicts were. Personally, I probably won't. I haven't played World of Warcraft since vanilla, but I do try to keep up on the story. I love watching all the cinematics and stuff, kind of seeing where things are going for the story, for the hopefully eventual release of Warcraft 4 someday, maybe. A guy can dream. Then I know some people are stoked for Shenmue remaster for Shenmue 1 and 2. That's going to be coming out here pretty soon too. And I think that's going to cover it until the next episode.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, stuff to look forward to. And then with that said, we're going to start wrapping things up here. So as per usual, just kind of mention what we got planned in the next couple weeks, what we plan on playing. So Justin, what you plan on playing in the next couple weeks?
Well, I'm busy for the weekend. I'm going to do some camping with some friends. But when I get back, like I say, I think I might have to hook up the old HDMI modded toaster and get some. I don't know why. I've just been feeling a little Ninja Gaiden-ish.
Cool. I dig it.
So I think I might try to do that. Yeah.
Excellent.
And then obviously, because I'm a whore to routine, I'll probably play some Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, why not?
The MMO that never, the MMOs that never end. And then obviously, like I say, I should almost see a therapist. I'm like, I need to find ways to break myself off that MMO addiction. And I do. I really want to be able to get through Shining Resonance. I just don't want to talk about it for 8 podcasts in a row. Hey, it's been 3 years. Still playing Shining Resonance.
Yeah.
Because Dragon Quest 11 comes out in about three and a half weeks,
yes.
And it's bye. It's go time.
Yes, I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah,
a lot of big stuff coming up that month, next month, anyways.
It's a busy month. Oh God.
Yes.
And yourself?
So actually, I've just started this, and I kind of plan to run through all of it. With the new release of the final piece of DLC for South Park, The Fractured Butthole, they just released Bring the Crunch, which is the final DLC that they're doing for the game, I believe. Story-based, kind of doing a spoof on your like summer slasher movie thing. And because I hadn't played any of the other DLC, I was like, you know what? I'll just grab them all. So I got that. I got the Casa Bonita DLC that I'm gonna play as well. They're all pretty quick. I think a lot of people are saying like the Bring the Crunch is like 2-3 hours, and I think Casa Bonita is like an hour or two. So play those, and then I'm not sure what I will play next. I got a whole stack of games. A whole entire backlog. I'll figure out something.
Yes, you will. I wish it would include Dragon Quest 8, but
Yeah, well, I can't. If I could beat it in 3 weeks, which unfortunately I work and have friends and a fiance and responsibilities, so I don't think I'd be able to play a 100-hour game.
A couple comments say they agree that you should play it.
That is true. Eventually.
Fair enough.
I think really my big focus over these next couple weeks is I really want to get them out of the way, because I've been excited to do it, and then I can kind of be done and not worry about it, and maybe start working on videos again. I'm focused on getting these. Like I mentioned, I'm making the Shantae figure, and then I also just recently got the Roddy Tops one, so I want to build that one as well. So get those done, and then I can, really crank on some games, and hopefully we'll start working on some videos. So.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot coming down the pipeline. Me, I'm just like, I'm going to school.
Hey,
it's a positive thing. I know it's a positive thing. I just I'd rather be like, oh my God, I played this, I looked at that, I watched this, I played that. And I'm just like, I got to buy textbooks that are overpriced.
Hey, I was there. I had, good 6 years where that's what I was mostly focused on. Not saying I didn't still game it up as much as I could, but gaming free time ebbs and flows, I guess, as responsibilities come and go.
Well, it'll certainly open up the floodgates once this turns into a better paying job. So
yes. So then I think I will just go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of us. So if you are listening to this on SoundCloud, you'll see some links on the right if you're on the webpage somewhere, if you're doing it through the app. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you can check the description for links to all important locations. Of course, you can find the podcast on podcast apps, iTunes. Just look up the Game Tenants. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look up the Game Grinder. And for the time being, if you want to get a hold of Justin, just leave us a comment somewhere, and the information will get to him.
Oh, I only get comments because I don't do social media.
Hey, it's probably better that way. Shit rots your brain.
The internet's a scary place.
Can be. Definitely can be. So then I think with that, that will do it for this episode of the Game Tenants Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to y'all next time.
Have a good one and keep gaming.
Peace.